molesta a todos. Lucas. Mira, yo voy detrás de todos ellos. Hay que entrar antes. Nosotros no entramos. Nadie achaque los deberes.
Si nos quitamos, por favor, venimos con...
¿Para dónde? ¿Para la izquierda? Vale, pues no me vale. Aquí. Más atrás. Más atrás.
Ahí.
Tráelo para acá, Miguel.
Métete un poco, si no. Sí, 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 sí. Si no, no va.
de vuestra santidad. Solicito permiso para retirar la puerta, Santo Padre.
Internacional, o sea que pues apañarnos.
Como quiera.
de Madrid conoce.
Muchas gracias. Señor Gustavo, regalo
Gracias por lo de dirección. Me ha tocado el corazón.
A la orden de vuestra santidad, me voy a hacer esta vuelta a la barrios.
Justo iba a decir que soy de la Caricia.
Está muy bien. Luego ya. Das otra cosa. Yo iba viendo ahí en el que salía.
Cuando llevas el corto de este, pues cuando he hecho el que te he dicho que país. Súper bien, y ya lo tenía.
Sí, lo digo. Que veía que te salía ahí. Y yo de andar no veía. Pero ese de televisión.
Ay, que sí, que me ha gustado. Sí, pero esto me ha ayudado mucho. Me ha ayudado mucho. En la carta la que contaban la entrevista y la
efectivamente. ¿Sabes lo que
Es raro, que te manden allí. No sé por qué. El caso es que no lo tiene, y ahora que está mal, que salga.
¿Cómo me han quitado el rótulo? ¿De verdad son ineptos? El rótulo.
Ah, ¿lo estás viendo?
Tenía un trabajo de rótulo feísimo puesto que mira el plano.
Ah, qué guapo.
O sea, mira el
Se
plano.
ha cargado el plano del rey.
Y el rótulo, en plan, no hay nadie ahí de verdad que esté editando en el juicio.
¿Tienes ahí cuando pinchas esto?
Que diga, sí, mira, es súper bien llevado. Para saber. La primera, esto te ha pinchado aquí y
Claro. Y ahora cuando se gira yo no sé si me vuelve.
ahora me ha mantenido
Sí, estaba guay.
hasta que...
Joder, claro que está buenísimo.
Yo entiendo que esto está masterizado en plan. Esto lo tienen grabaciones en blues. Es que queda, mira, o sea,
Guardias reales entran. Detente, venga. Guardias reales, izquierda y derecha. ¡Al! ¡Saludo! izquierda y derecha. ¡Haz! ¡Saludo! ¡Haz! ¡Eleve! ¡Alma! ¡Venga, vuelta! ¡Haz! ¡Saludo! ¡Haz! ¡Guardia real! ¡Izquierda y derecha! ¡Haz! ¡Guardia reales salen! ¡Enfrente, suspender! ¡Haz!
Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praise be Jesus Christ. Welcome to this live broadcast of Pope Leo XIV's visit and official welcome to Madrid, to Spain. The Holy Father will meet with the authorities, the civil society, and members of the diplomatic corps. My name is Devin Watkins, and I'll be providing the commentary and translation for this papal event. From wherever you are joining us, I'd like to welcome you to this live broadcast. Some of you may be joining us through various Vatican media channels, perhaps the Vatican News app, the Vatican News web portal, or the Vatican News English YouTube channel, or our Facebook Live feed. We also welcome all of you who are joining us through our various broadcasting partners, including EWTN, Catholic Faith Network in America, Salt and Light TV, Shalom World TV, Atma Darshan TV, Luminous Radio, and Catholic TV. A warm welcome to all of our friends from the Deaf Catholic Youth Initiative for the Americas, DCYIA. Please visit our Vatican News YouTube channel to find translation of this event and many others in American Sign Language, or ASL. As we go live, the Holy Father is meeting with King Felipe VI of Spain, his wife, the Queen Consort Letizia, and their daughters Isabel and Sofia. The children are named Leonor and the Infanta Sofia. The Holy Father is in the Royal Palace in Madrid. He has just arrived here in Madrid. He departed from Rome this morning, kicking off his 7-day apostolic journey to Spain. He left from the airport, Fiumicino Airport, along with several journalists traveling with him and his entourage. They left Fiumicino at 8:13 a.m. this morning and landed at the Madrid Barajas Adolfo Suárez Airport at 10:12 a.m. The Holy Father was welcomed to the airport, to Madrid, by King Felipe and Queen Letizia. And they have accompanied the Holy Father up to now, taking him on a tour of the Royal Palace, which lies in the heart of Madrid, and right in front of the cathedral. The Holy Father is about to meet with the authorities, the members of civil society, and the diplomatic corps, where the king will address the Holy Father and the diplomat and the corps, as well as the Holy Father addressing those gathered, speaking to all of Spain. This is his first event, his first public stop here in Madrid. After this event, the Holy Father will travel to the Apostolic Nunciature, where he will have lunch in private. And then later this afternoon, at 6 o'clock, he will meet with the volunteers and those assisted by a social project called Sedia 24 Horas. This event is the Holy Father will afterwards meet with young people in the at the Plaza de Lima for a prayer vigil with young people, during which there will be a scenic representation of Godspell. And then the Holy Father will lead the Eucharistic adoration and then provide the Eucharistic benediction. This is his first day in Spain. If you're following us on television, you can see that we are awaiting the Holy Father to finish his private encounter with the King and Queen and the royal family of Spain. Here in the Royal Palace, we can see the facade of the Royal Palace on our screens. So the Royal Palace is Spain's official royal residence. However, the royal family does not live there currently. It's used mainly for state ceremonies and official events. It sits on the Calle Bailén, besides the Almudena Cathedral, and near the Plaza de Oriente. Historically, this Royal Palace stands on the site of Madrid's old Alcazar, a medieval fortress palace. This was the original palace was built here, the older Habsburg palace, but it burned down in 1734, and King Philip V ordered the construction of the current palace. Work began in 1738 and was completed in 1764. King Charles III was the first monarch to live there. Architecturally, we can see that it is a grand Bourbon-era palace with Baroque and neoclassical features. It has a square plan around a large central courtyard with several facades, the Sabatini Gardens and the Campo del Moro Gardens nearby. Inside, the palace is famous for ceremonial and artistic rooms, such as the main staircase, the throne hall, which we saw earlier, if you were following. The Holy Father was treated and the royals explained some of the history of the throne room. The Holy Father, and the palace also consists of the Hall of Halberdiers, the Gasparini Room, the Royal Chapel, a Royal Armory, and a Royal Pharmacy. The palace also contains works associated with artists such as Velázquez, Goya, Rubens, El Greco, Caravaggio, Tiepolo, and Sorolla. These are names well known in the art world, who all left their mark on the artistic history of Spain. the Holy Father will be in Madrid for 3 days, 4 days technically. He tomorrow on Sunday will celebrate Mass in the Plaza de Cibeles, and in the evening he will hold an encounter with the representatives of culture, art, economics, and sport. Then on Monday, the Holy Father will meet with and speak to the Spanish Parliament, becoming the first Pope to do so. Later he will meet with the bishops of Spain, and then in the evening on Monday will lead the prayer of the we'll read a prayer and homage to the Virgin of Almudena before meeting with the diocesan community. So Monday will be a packed full of events in Madrid, meeting with various aspects of Spanish society. Then on Tuesday, the Holy Father will travel to Barcelona, where he will meet with volunteers and pray midday prayer after arriving, and then in the evening hold a prayer vigil before, on Wednesday, traveling to a penitential facility, a jail, a prison in Montserrat, where he will also pray the Holy Rosary, and later on Wednesday meet with the charitable organizations and diocesan assistance organizations, and then celebrate Mass on Wednesday in the cathedral, not the cathedral, excuse me, the Basilica of the Sagrada Familia, the Holy Family. While there, the Holy Father will inaugurate the Tower of Jesus Christ, which is the tallest tower of the Sagrada Familia, and which has just been completed about a month ago before the Holy Father's arrival. And so he will have the occasion to inaugurate this. The Sagrada Familia is a world-renowned basilica designed by the artist Antoni Gaudí, and which has been under construction for nearly 100 years. Then on Thursday, the Holy Father will travel to the Canary Islands, where he will meet with migrants and those who welcome them and assist them as they make their way to Spain. The Holy Father will also meet with the bishops, priests, religious, and charitable workers before traveling on Friday to Gran Canaria, which is his final day. He will celebrate Mass there in Gran Canaria before returning to Rome. We see the Holy Father has just concluded his private meeting with the King and Queen and Princesses of Spain. They are pausing in front of the thrones in the throne room of the royal palace, pausing for photos, a photo shoot. And the Holy Father is being... several people are coming to greet the Holy Father, whom the King presents to them. And as they go and shake hands with the King, the Queen, Pope Leo, Leonora, and Infanta Sofia. The Holy Father's apostolic journey to Spain can be understood as, and has been presented as, the Holy Father is arriving through the royal palace. He will walk with the people in Madrid, especially during the procession tomorrow at the end of Mass for the feast of Corpus Christi, the most holy body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. He then turns and raises the Church's artistic gaze, and which points us to Christ, at the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, and then ends his journey at Europe's Atlantic border with a heavy focus on migrants, a theme which we know is dear to Pope Leo XIV's heart. During his flight to Madrid this morning, Pope Leo received a drawing made by the young patients, children who are patients of the Vatican's Bambino Gesù Pediatric Hospital. It was presented by journalists of the Dicastery for Communication and our media outlets. The drawing was made by children in their playroom, and it depicts the Holy Father among the clouds, and his a symbolic representation of his apostolic journey, his flight to Madrid. The Holy Father took the drawing and studied it attentively and smiled and lingered on the details, which are St. Peter's keys drawn on the tail of his plane, the golden cross around the Holy Father's neck as he looks out the window, and a large sun illuminating the entire scene. Even during his apostolic journey to 4 African countries in April, the Holy Father was similarly presented with another drawing made by the children assisted by the Vatican's Bambino Gesù Hospital. As he greeted the journalists aboard the papal plane, the Holy Father described his journey as an apostolic visit to encounter the faithful, to celebrate our Catholic faith, and to proclaim the message of Jesus Christ. However, the Pope said that the Church has a message for all of society, especially in light of his encyclical Magnifica Humanitas, which was released almost 2 weeks ago now. The journalists traveling with the Pope asked him about current events, and he renewed his appeal for dialogue and peace in Ukraine. He expressed his closeness to Lebanon and reflected on the dangers of modern warfare and the destructive power of contemporary weapons. The Holy See Press Office announced Friday evening, that the Holy Father will meet with victims and survivors of clerical sexual abuse. The Pope spoke about that to journalists, saying that the issue of clerical abuse is still an open wound, and confirmed that he will meet several abuse victims. There was a light-hearted exchange whenever the Pope received a question if he supported Real Madrid or Barcelona. The Holy Father jokingly said the Pope supports all teams, but that Prevost supports Real Madrid. And we are here in we hear the King Felipe to welcoming the Pope, and we will provide a translation.
Os la damos en nombre de nuestra familia, presentes aquí nuestras hijas, la princesa Leonor y la infanta Sofía, del gobierno y de las demás instituciones.
The Queen and I offer you, with humility and joy, the warmest welcome to Spain. We do so in the name of our family. Our daughters, Princess Leonor and Infanta Sofia, are present here, of the government and the other institutions of the state, and of all the Spanish people. And I do so in a language that is also your own. For all Spanish speakers, it is a privilege that you understand and habitually use the language we share. Thanks to your years of missionary life and pastoral work in Peru, in the Order of St. Augustine, and we feel fortunate that all that Ibero-America represents is also very close to you. To arrive in a country where part of your own roots lie. You are welcomed by a people who know you well, vital and strong in character, supportive and tolerant, and also creative and cosmopolitan. You have a full program rich in moments of encounter, prayer, and reflection, which has brought you to Madrid and will take you to Barcelona, and also, for the first time in history, for a Pope, to the Canary Islands. You will see in our streets and squares, in churches and institutions, the immense joy we feel at having you among us. Thank you for the generosity and sensitivity you show through the scope and intensity of this visit. The Catholic faith is rooted in our country, and without it, as you well know, our history and culture cannot be understood. It is rooted in daily life, in traditions, in festivities, but also in much deeper aspects, such as the sense of community and popular spirituality, from the witness of our mystics, St. John and St. Teresa, to the simple religiosity of hundreds of thousands of people. I wish to emphasize the enormous social work of the Catholic Church, the fruit of the commitment of religious men and women, priests, deacons, young people who take part in parish life, and volunteers who serve in homes for the elderly, hostels, soup kitchens, and reception centers. I believe I am echoing the feeling of the majority of Spaniards when, in your person, I express my recognition and gratitude toward all these men and women. Among them I include, with special admiration, the thousands of missionaries from our country who carry out their social, educational, charitable, and pastoral work in so many needy places throughout the world, very often remote or still very isolated. There can be no greater contrast with all this than the pain caused by cases of abuse, which are not and cannot be representative of the immense ecclesial community. Your clarity and firmness, which I too wish to acknowledge, are essential in the process of healing and repairing the harm inflicted. They are essential for the victims, for the faithful, for the Church, and for society as a whole.
Soy, Santo Padre, un hombre de sólida formación científica. Habéis dedicado...
Holy Father, you are a man with a solid scientific formation. You devoted years of study to the most essential language there is, mathematics. The vision of a man of spirit and science, with a great social conscience and deep attention to change, takes on special value in the time in which we live, a time that can no longer be explained in the terms to which we were accustomed and that we continue to that we seek to interpret. In this time we run the risk of forgetting what truly matters, of slipping into the mistaken belief that, with many of our points of reference abolished by the pulse of current events, everything is valid, everything is admissible, negotiable, and justifiable. And that is not so. The dignity of the person, human rights, democratic values, and international equality must continue to be our prime numbers, because in them, in their many combinations, lies the arithmetic of freedom, equality, and justice, the kind that adds and multiplies, not the kind that subtracts and divides. Your voice, Your Holiness, springs from the Spirit, from the Christian faith, and is nourished by 20 centuries of history. Today it is a source of inspiration for more than 1.4 billion Catholics. But because of its ethical content, it resonates far beyond them, in every conscience. This voice, both so new and so ancient, has just taken shape in the first encyclical of your pontificate, which addresses, among other things, the challenges inherent in AI. One need only read the title, Magnifica Humanitas, to realize that it is not animated by a catastrophic vision, but by a gaze filled with hope and optimism in the human person. Your words urge us to transform fear, which is sterile and paralyzing, into a thoughtful and shared knowledge of the potential and risks of this new reality. And you add that this new technology cannot be the monopoly of a few, but must be a tool in the hands of all, benefiting all societies. And that will be possible only if we are able to keep the person at the center of every discussion, never replaced, subjugated, or constrained by some algorithm. Because in a world flooded with data and messages, empathy, understanding, and listening become indispensable. Your predecessor, His Holiness Pope Francis, often insisted on the importance of knowing how to listen. It is paradoxical that, in a time of interconnections, we are losing this ability, or this patience. Because when our attention is turned to the other, to the person before us, we can identify with his or her pain, joy, weaknesses, and strengths. We can put ourselves in that person's shoes. Only if we learn to understand the reasons of others, to seek common ground or agreement, will we be able to move forward together. I recall that from the Lodge of the Blessings, a few minutes after leaving the conclave that named you as successor of Peter and Bishop of Rome, you launched to the world a passionate defense of unity. Help us, you said, to build bridges through dialogue, through encounter, uniting us all to be one people, always at peace.
como aspiración surge de la conciencia de nuestra fragilidad como individuos.
Unity as an aspiration is born of the awareness of our fragility as individuals, of our contingency, of our limits, but also of that inexhaustible capacity for goodness and beauty that reaches its peak when the human being loves his neighbor, when he opens himself and gives himself to others. Always remembering this in words and in deeds, and especially in these times of uncertainty, deserves to be a universal rule of conduct. Unity as a vehicle and instrument for peace. Once again, Your Holiness, welcome to Spain. And the Holy Father will now address the civil authorities of Spain. We just heard King Felipe VI officially welcoming Pope Leo.
Majestades, Altezas Reales, distinguidas autoridades y miembros del cuerpo diplomático, señoras y
Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, distinguished representatives of civil society, esteemed members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, I am grateful to the Lord for this occasion to meet with you and express my gratitude for the invitation to undertake this apostolic journey to Spain. This journey will unfold in several stages, each revealing an aspect of the multifaceted richness of a great country that for nearly 2 millennia has welcomed the gospel. Tradition has always linked the initial evangelization of the Iberian Peninsula to the preaching of the Apostle James the Greater. This connection is of considerable theological importance, for it expresses the local church's awareness of its continuity with the apostolic mission that began at Pentecost.
El vínculo antiquísimo entre la fe cristiana y esta tierra, si bien por un lado no agota la multiforme identidad de vuestro pueblo, por otro,
while not exhausting the multifaceted identity of your people, the ancient bond between the Christian faith and this land has profoundly shaped your culture and represents a source of hope and direction amid the challenges we must face together as a human family today. I think of the expressions of popular piety that stand as an authentic dramatization of salvation in every city and town, in step with the rhythm of the year and life's various contexts, along with the artistic and musical heritage, as well as the many confraternities and charitable associations. They bear witness to the fruitful encounter between Jesus Christ and your people, a passionate people who love life and express it.
I
come among you to affirm, encourage, and instill a renewed fidelity to the gospel among believers, as well as a deeper reconciliation and collaboration among the various elements of this nation. After all, your own history suggests that a culture of encounter, not confrontation, is what fosters stability and prosperity. In reality, the message of peace, which at present unfortunately strikes some as naive and others as confrontational, is welcomed by those who do not shut themselves off in preconceived ideologies, but are rather open to the truth. As Pope Francis taught us, there is, in fact, a constant tension between ideas and realities. Realities simply are, whereas ideas are worked out. There has to be continuous dialogue between the two, lest ideas become detached from realities It is dangerous to dwell in the realm of words alone, of images and rhetoric. He concluded that realities are greater than ideas. The truth is always greater than we are, which is why it amazes us and draws us toward paths of purification and reconciliation, in which dialogue with others and with the other, with a capital O, becomes fundamentally important.
A este respecto, quisiera referirme a dos figuras de este país.
In this respect, I would like to mention two prominent figures from this country who have enriched the life of the Church and the spiritual journey of many for 5 centuries, even beyond the borders of Spain. I am referring to John of the Cross and Teresa of Avila, whose passion for the divine mystery brought them together as friends. Their mysticism is one of open eyes, that is not detached from history, but rather penetrating to the root of issues and the heart of reality. In particular, upon interpreting the transformations and weathering the tensions that make our age so dark, we can find it helpful to consider the theme of night, so dear to St. John of the Cross, whose Jubilee year we are celebrating. Paradoxically, in this thirst for light, he learned to appreciate darkness, the happy night. This is the time when the soul is freed from what is presumed to know, what it presumed to know and possess. Even today, what most frightens us, what in many people triggers the darkness of reason and the violence of emotions, is the unknown, before which we may feel overwhelmed by a sense of being lost without a map, as if we have lost our bearings. This is why, even in public life, we need men and women who can perceive light in the darkness, a new beginning, like the dawn of a truth that as yet blinds us, but which, if we trust and find peace, will gently lead us toward itself. O night that guided, O night more lovely than the dawn, O night that brought together beloved and beloved, beloved transformed in the beloved. Our age, seemingly shaken by terrible imbalances and conflicts, cries out from its depths for peace, for a new understanding of the human person and its inviolable dignity, for a civilization of love. Saint Teresa describes this same process using the image of the interior castle. As one moves from room to room towards the inmost chamber, that is, towards one's own heart, the sanctuary of truth, the space enlarges, the mind opens, challenges are overcome, tensions dissipate, others find their place, and the universe becomes a home. This is not an escape into the self, but a radical openness to the totus alius et semper novus, achieved when we return to ourselves. This dimension of the human person is the reason why religious freedom and freedom of conscience must be protected. Today, the temptation to gain popularity by fanning the flames of polarization seems to have grown rather than diminished, and human dignity continues to be violated. This is why we need culture, interiority, and free quality education. We need transcendence. And yet, even in these dark nights, men and women who are faithful to the truth have been driven to advance from one room to another until justice and peace embrace in their conscience. It is through their freedom that we learn to be free.
La Iglesia Católica está al servicio de esta sed de corazón humano. No de forma
The
impositiva.
Catholic Church is at the service of the thirst of the human heart. It is a service not marked by imposition, but rather the gospel witness attests to by a multitude of martyrs and saints. Today, the Church is ready to place herself at the service of the future of a people in search of reconciliation and peace. For the love of truth, I invite everyone to set aside the divisive and polarizing narratives of your societal reality and history, so as to overcome sterile simplifications through the fruitful appreciation of complexity. I see here a vocation particularly suited to Europe, in which Spain plays a unique and fundamental role. This is the gift that the old continent can offer the world if it wishes to remain young. For youth is found in those who feel they have a future and a mission that still have meaning. Appreciating and studying complexity, learning not to deny it but to embrace it as a blessing, and fleeing from identity-based approaches that seem to explain everything yet only fill the world with ghosts and enemies, are the tasks of those who are heirs of a great history. New technologies have created an artificial environment where our fundamental choices are put to the test. Prejudices are magnified, critical thinking is weakened, and dominating interests spread deathly wishes. Nevertheless, goodness can prevail and spread.
Es necesario, sobre todo, por parte de quienes tienen responsabilidad.
It is essential, particularly on the part of those with economic, political, and institutional responsibilities, to make a qualitative leap forward, a change of direction in investment in schools, universities, and research, as well as in local communities and civil society, as a nurturing ground for participation and cultural mediation. Security, which we all too often expect to find in weapons and walls, is in fact best achieved by learning to move forward alongside one another, growing together side by side.
La presencia del Islam en la península ibérica.
Your own history bears witness to this. The presence of Islam on the Iberian Peninsula, for example, constituted a long-standing political, cultural, and religious reality. During that period, there were not only confrontation, but also an attempt to create a space for contact, conversation, and dialogue on the meaning of truth among Christians, Muslims, and Jews. At the School of Translators, enhanced by Alfonso X the Wise, experts from all three religions collaborated on translating the texts of the rich Arabic, Greek, and Hebrew heritage, contributing to the dissemination of texts such as those of the philosophers Averroes and Maimonides, among others. The cities of Córdoba and Toledo, in particular, became centers of dialogue between languages, religions, and knowledge. This is the truth told by European cities, their historical stratification, the fabric of solidarity that has shaped their differences over the centuries, transforming inevitable conflicts into new beginnings.
Como nos enseñó otro noble hijo de esta tierra, en las pruebas y los fracasos.
As another noble son of this land taught us, trials and failures offer an opportunity for reevaluation. Ignatius of Loyola possessed this kind of audacity, giving credence to the desolations and consolations of his heart through an exercise of discernment and imagination that led him to prefer peace over arms and the saints to the powerful. He understood that the good to which he was drawn was not illusory, and so his crisis became instead a grace. The same can happen with the novelties that unsettle us today and often cause division. We must avoid humiliating or antagonistic words, opting rather for a clarity that sheds light and a frankness that unlocks new possibilities. We cannot condone naive enthusiasms nor fuel unfounded fears. Instead, let us establish standards of discernment, standards for discernment, the dignity of the human person, the universal destination of goods, the preferential option for the poor, care for our common home, and peace. And let us translate these standards into practices such as responsible planning, the assessment of human and social impact, the inclusion of the most vulnerable, the promotion of digital literacy, and guiding research and industry toward justice and peace.
Expreso mi agradecimiento a vuestro país.
Your Majesties, Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, I express my gratitude to your country for its faithful adherence to international law and multilateralism, which is reflected in an active commitment to peace and solidarity among peoples. At the same time, I encourage you to cultivate as well dialogue and civic friendship within your own country, to take into account the perspectives of the poor and the young when envisioning the future, to harmonize the claims for autonomy and unity, and to advance the cause of unity in Europe, not in opposition to other powers, but as a gift to the entire human family. God bless Spain. And we hear the sustained applause for Pope Leo's address to the civil authorities of Spain. And the Holy Father and the King and Queen and Princesses of Spain are leaving the Salón de Columnas, the column room where this event took place. And with that, we conclude this live broadcast of Pope Leo XIV's encounter with the civil authorities and diplomatic corps of Spain. Please visit the Vatican News web portal, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube accounts for coverage of today's event and other Vatican and world news. We invite you to join us this afternoon at 6 p.m. Rome time for the Pope's visit to the social project Sedia 24 Horas. My name is Devin Watkins, and it's been a pleasure to provide the translation and commentary for this papal event. On behalf of Vatican Media, I'd like to thank our in-studio audio technician, Bruno Orti, and our audio coordinator, Father Johan, and all of our media partners on television and radio, and all of our friends on DCYIA who have made this broadcast possible. And thank you all for joining us. Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ.